Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor right now and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and I'd be able to send watches like this to your inbox on a daily basis. If you like this watch, you can buy it and 1,700 of its friends on thewatchbox.com, 24 hours a day, worldwide. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches on thewatchbox.com. Okay, clear the decks for action and get ready to rock, because with all due respect to the Type 20s and Marines that pay the bills, this is the kind of watch that Swatch Group wants you to think of, the Patek Fighter, when you think of modern Breguet. This is the Breguet Classique 3797 Tourbillon Perpetual calendar in 18 karat rose gold, and it is a showstopper. Launched at Basel World 2014, 41 millimeters in rose gold. You can see the case profile, the lug profile, the bezel profile, all familiar contemporary Breguet. It's a relatively thin watch considering what's inside. At 11.9 millimeters thick with a generously rounded domed bezel, you can easily slide this underneath a dress cuff or fine suit. From lug to lug, it's large, but it's not oversized. 50.6 millimeters lug to lug with relatively short, you can see, straight and tucked lugs. It's a watch that will fit on a wrist as small as, in my estimation, 14 centimeters in circumference. So this is a decent complication for a small wrist. What you'll also find is that because the lugs are relatively short and tucked, and there's no constraint in the movement of a strap that uses traditional straight bars, you can pull it straight down and around the curve of a smaller wrist. Bolstered strap, medium scale, light brown. You can see folded edge and a monotone stitch, calfskin for souplesse on the underside. It is a Breguet factory strap, and it is paired with a Breguet factory clasp with a sensational filigree style buckle. You use the triggers that are cleverly hidden underneath the mechanism to release the clasp, and it's a double deployant with a smart curvature to trace the underside of the wrist. Double deployant is easier on a small wrist. It doesn't have the one big up and over that can pinch your wrist. And the triggers are reassuring, as this one cannot simply pop open. It is not friction fit. It's a beautiful clasp with multiple finishes used, polish, media blasting, as well as satin. Absolutely beautiful and becoming of a watch of this stature, status, and price. Now, the case, classic modern Breguet wristwatch. Welded lugs, you can see they've been double finished, polished on their flanks, coined on the side of the case with all evidence of the soldering and the welds removed. You'll also note that the bars are held in place with screws, no spring bars here for absolute security and peace of mind on the wrist, appropriate to the price point. The sides of the case are cold rolled to create this coining and then hand finished, and you'll note that there's a slight cantilever of the case back as well as the bezel over the mid case, a little bit like a contemporary FP Journe. Now the dial is a sensation, and not just because it incorporates an enormous tourbillon and a perpetual calendar. First, the dial base itself is solid gold. It is then cut on a rose lathe, which is a hand-guided 19th century mechanism. Typically, the machines are several times older than the artisans who use them, and by programming the cams and in general hand sketching the pattern before the mechanical operation, the guillocheur who creates this guilloche cut gold dial will create everything from the undulations to the sunray patterns to the clous de Paris, all planned in advance, all executed on vintage machinery in which Breguet has invested heavily. That gold base is then silvered, and as you can see, a huge aperture is cut away at 6 o'clock. It's about a quarter of the entire surface area of the dial, and you're looking at the tourbillon. The tourbillon in this case is a big, slow beating affair. The best way to build a tourbillon. 18,000 vibrations per hour. You can see it has a tri-spoke, and there is one enlarged indicator that's currently passing underneath the superimposed hour track that allows you to use it as a constant seconds indicator. It is a 1-minute tourbillon. It features a free sprung balance, so that can be regulated quite precisely. This caliber is regulated in 6 positions versus the 5 for a chronometer, so a chronometer buster in every sense. And then it also features an overcoil hairspring. So if you may have heard that a tourbillon is not perfect for a wristwatch application, when you add the Breguet overcoil, which is A, appropriate considering the brand of the watch, and B, highly effective at ensuring concentric beating in any position with respect to gravity. That overcoil helps to restore the original purpose of the tourbillon, which is a consistent rate with respect to gravity in any position. Now, the tourbillon itself, beautifully made and huge. It's a tri-spoke tourbillon cage. The tourbillon carriage itself is entirely black polished, and you'll note this bow tie style full bridge for the tourbillon features, as you can see, 6 interior angles and 2 black polished screws, finish interior angles on both sides of the movement, the anglage at the edge of the bridges, the black polished heads of the screws, as well as their chamfered slots and chamfered circumference, all absolutely gorgeous. Manual wind, it has a 50-hour power reserve, which is impressive considering the tourbillon is a power-intensive refinement, and this one also has a perpetual calendar. You can see that there is a retrograde date at center, flanked by the day of the week, the month of the year, and there's a small indicator, and this tiny blue sun style indication lets you know which phase of the leap year cycle you are currently in. And QB, or quantième bissextile, is at 6 o'clock, so we're approximately halfway through the leap year cycle. Now you'll also note that the hands, Breguet style, for hours and minutes are the real deal. Heat blued steel, they are not chemically dyed, and there is a elevated superimposed hour and minute track that allows a huge amount of information from that giant tri-spoke tourbillon seconds indicator to the twin registers for the day and the month to be located on the same physical plane as the time of day. It's clever packaging and it's beautiful, adding yet another layer to this seemingly bottomless dial. It is gorgeous. Turn it over, it gets better. I talked about some of the finishing, but I didn't mention the freehand engraving, and yes, you get that. Freehand engraving, distinct from guilloche, in that guilloche is executed with a cam-guided engine, and freehand engraving is done using nothing but a chisel and the hands. So all of this graved out from the plate itself. You can see it's an enormous pocket watch style 3/4 bridge. Absolutely sensational. No two are going to be exactly alike, so if there's another 3797 in the room, make no mistake, the engraving on the back will allow you to tell them apart. The movement, an opus in its own right, is protected down to 30 meters water resistance, which frankly is dress watch appropriate. It's not a diver, it's not a swimmable watch, but considering the through case fittings and the compound complications, any degree of water resistance is impressive in a watch like this. The caliber is Breguet manufacture 558 QP2, and as you can see, no expense spared in making it look as special as its underlying engineering. You can see and you can purchase this sensational Breguet Grand Complication on our website.